Hey guys, it's Sunday night, which means it's another episode of the M Cluster. I'm Slider, I'm your host, and tonight we're going to be discussing the movie Eragon. And this is Brandon's pick, so I'm going to go ahead and let him do the lead in. Brandon?
Hi guys. As Slider mentioned, we'll be discussing Eragon tonight. The movie came out in 2006. It was directed by Stefan Fangmeyer, which probably no one has heard of because this is the only movie he's directed. The screenplay was also done by Peter Buckman, which he also did the screenplay for Jurassic Park 3, another terrible movie. Um, it did not have a good start, to say the least. There are many, many, many things wrong with the movie, even outside of the book, which the book series is one of my favorites. Um, as you can see, I'm starting to already express my distaste for this movie. I'll actually pass this to Slider to see what he thinks before I start really tearing things apart.
Well, I think you're going to freak out. I really like this movie.
Are you are you fucking kidding me?
I mean,
How?
this movie. Look at. I even donned my Aragon-esque shirt for this. I mean, it had dragons, it had sword fighting, it had battles. I mean, Jeremy Irons for God's sake, and John
The only
Malkovich.
redeeming
I,
factor of the movie was
I
Jeremy
mean,
Irons.
this movie was wonderful. I don't understand. Actually, now I will say I did not take your advice. I did not go read up on the movie before watching it because I didn't. Yeah, I wanted to give the movie a fair shot. I just thought it was great. I mean, the graphics for the dragon were wonderful. The
And
dialogue
incorrect.
was moving. What?
The visuals for the dragon were completely incorrect.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
She doesn't have feathers, for one. She's not supposed to be a dull blue slash gray. She's supposed to be a very, very bright and intense blue, hence her name. She also had the mental link with Eragon pretty much from the moment she was born, although she couldn't use words at the time. Uh, she was given her name by Eragon after he spoke with Brahm, who was played by Jeremy Irons. Um, that's just the start. She didn't grow instantaneously once she entered the sky. She didn't, like that was retarded. She entered the sky and magically she's big enough to ride. That's stupid.
It's magic. I mean, this is a fantasy.
That's not how it works.
It's not how. So now you're dictating the rules of the fantasy worlds.
Dictating the rules of the story because they're going off of the book and well, I'm sorry, they used the name of the book and the names of the characters, but they didn't go off of what the actual way it was written. She spends many months, well, not really many months. I would say probably about 3 months or so in the forest, hidden, growing rapidly, but not instantaneously either.
Well, I didn't
She
have that
also had
much time.
spikes along her back that was needed if you were going to ride a dragon that was needed to hold on to kind of so you don't fall off.
Well, so he used the saddle instead. I mean, I don't think
Well,
that's such a
they
big
do
thing.
use a saddle in the book, but the saddle was made later on. He tried riding without a saddle, and it actually um, completely tore his legs apart. Like um, it was really cut open and had to heal before he could ride again. That's why a saddle is needed to ride a dragon. You can never ride a dragon without being strapped in. So that was also bullshit with him riding on a tail. Also,
But
all right, so outside of the book, um, look at the end of the movie, how he led the Varden. That was. What rebellion is going to let a 17-year-old lead them?
the chosen one. He's the chosen one in the prophecy. That
Really?
the time of the dragon riders will come again.
Not that easy. I mean, it's still that's still kind of really stretching it. Even whether he's the chosen one or not, he doesn't have the experience and the maturity to actually lead
Well,
an
well,
army.
okay. So what about Joan of Arc? Silence. All right, but there's something really, really in particular that I think you're gonna probably be relieved to hear me say about this particular film. It's that I'm completely trolling. This movie sucked.
Thank God. That was oh
this
no, that was
movie,
God.
Well, okay, so I had actually seen the movie before. I knew I had, but I couldn't remember anything about it. And then when I started watching the movie, I remembered why I couldn't remember anything about it because it sucked. Um, it was just there was nothing interesting about this movie. I didn't care about the characters. The leader, the dragon rider was just like you said. It's just a whiny, snotty little kid that I just couldn't get. There's nothing about it I liked.
Like I said, the only redeeming factor of the movie was Jeremy Irons. He actually did a very good job as Brom.
Even John Malkovich. John Malkovich was just this really flat character that was in the background. Now, I think they might have had grander plans for this franchise because at the very end, when he slashes the tapestry and there's a dragon behind it that screams, "Oh, we're making a sequel!" And I know it's a trilogy of books.
No, it's not a trilogy. It's 4 books.
It's 4 books. So, yeah, they split the last book into 2, right?
Yes. Another thing, though, is Galbatorix, John Malkovich, never described until the final book.
Well, there you go.
And it was that way intentionally to leave you wondering what he looked like. The dragon that when he slashed that curtain away, that's Shuriken. It's supposed to be also much larger than that, but that's neither here nor there. And once they do show him, if you read the final book, it's like the comparison is really out there. Galbatorix in the final book is described as really like the most beautiful man you would have ever seen. He's very effeminate, because of the magic that he's been encompassed by, which is the elves' magic. Elves and dragons, they start to take on looks. Another thing that really was upsetting through the movie was the fact that they left entire races out of the story. There's no elves, which Arya is supposed to be the princess of the elves. They left out the dwarves. When they get to the Varden, most of them are dwarves.
So, but if I understand you correctly, the biggest problem you have with material or to the original story?
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to repeat that. My screen froze.
Your biggest problem with this is that they didn't stick to the source material or the original story, correct?
Yes, but only to a certain point. There are movies that have been made that are that have had a book previously that I'm fine with, that still hit major points even though they leave certain things out. But with this, it's like they just did whatever they wanted. You can't write off main characters and things like. Otherwise, you end up with a movie like this or like Dragon Ball, and everyone who was a Dragon Ball fan freaking hated that movie.
Oh, I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, and
but
I hated the 5 minutes of the movie that I watched.
I mean, they just completely and utterly destroyed the story of this movie. Like I said, they got Saphira wrong. They got Eragon's age wrong as well. He starts off as 15, not 17, like in the movie. Roran doesn't leave town because soldiers are there, and he doesn't want to be recruited. He leaves town to go work so he could save money up to marry a woman called Katrina, who was the butcher's daughter. And that plays a huge pivotal role because Sloane is the one who betrays Eragon and his location to the Razak that was in the movie controlling, but was not really. That's not what happened in the book. In the book, it's Galbatorix who controls the Razak. There's just so many differences. That is just demolished anything that any fan of Eragon, this book series, would love.
Well, the trivia that I read actually said it was well over 50. You saw that post. But what really surprised me about this is the fact that this movie was really successful.
Because everyone who loved the series wanted to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, worldwide it made $250 million. I mean, it's not Avengers successful or anything. I mean, that was one weekend. But, I mean, for what it is, it made really well. It did really well. And it had a huge production budget, $100 million production budget.
Yeah, and that's that's another thing. Like people have that I've talked to about the movie, they're like, and I've mentioned the elves and the dwarves, like, oh, maybe they didn't have the budget. I'm like, even if they only had a $20 million budget, I'm all right with if they didn't do like the Lord of the Rings and shrink down the dwarves to do that camera effect type of thing. At least put elf ears on Arya. That's what, $20?
Yeah, exactly. Um, and it almost seems like they went out of their way to do things to make this movie fail. Because if you look at some of the people that were considered for this, one of the ones I mentioned throughout the week when I was posting stuff was Guy Pearce
Yeah.
as Dirge of the Shade. Uh,
That would have been.
yeah,
He would have done better.
Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart were considered for the roles of Brahm, which Jeremy Irons is no one to sneeze at, but
No, but
these are
I
established
do think
actors.
Jeremy Irons would have been better than Patrick Stewart
Yeah.
for the role of Brom.
Elijah Wood was considered for the lead role. Um, I mean, so these are not nobody actors that were considered for this, and they went with relative no ones. Ed Speleers uh, uh, beat out 180,000 other actors for this role.
Yeah, and
180,000.
they didn't keep the looks right either. They could have dyed his hair to the color that it is in the book, which is brown.
So
Hair dye is what, $10?
I don't know. I've never dyed my hair.
Well,
Um,
I'm just saying, like there's just so many little things, and given the fact that the director is someone who's supposed to be majorly into visual effects because that's all he's done outside of directing this movie is visual effects.
yeah,
Um,
and the dragon was crappy looking. That was another joke. I mean, it didn't look realistic in any way, which is kind of weird to say where you're talking about dragons. But they just it seemed cartoony. Um, so now I will say the vistas, the landscape, like the
yeah,
flying shots, all of that was really well done. And maybe that's his forte. I don't know, but yeah,
the
the dragon itself were just really, or not was, it is just really boring to look at.
well, that's what I mean. She was like a dull bluish gray, and she's supposed to be like a really, really intense blue, as well as her fire, which they also got wrong. Not just the color, but the time that she actually used it. She didn't, in the book, she wasn't able to breathe fire up until the very height of the final battle. Or I'm sorry, very not height, very end of it, when it does kill Durza. That's how he got distracted, was her breathing fire.
Right.
And it was in a mountain. There was no open fields like there was that they showed in the movie. The Varden were pretty much under a mountain, which
Um,
also alludes to the doors, which they left out of the movie.
and they actually modeled her flying movements on an eagle, and eagles are not really well known for being ridden. Uh, I mean, there's a lot of examples of mythical creatures that have been done well in the past, even before we had the modern special effects that we have now. So it just felt like they weren't trying.
No,
Um,
I know it's surprising for the guy who leads up visual effects for different movies. Just did a terrible job. Um, One of the other things, like the Urgles that they mentioned throughout the movie, and they were supposed to be fighting at the end. In the movie, they really just look like humans with tattoos and red eyes,
right, exactly.
which is stupid.
And I imagine they're supposed to be like more orc-like.
Kind of, I would say more ogre-like.
Right.
They're the Urgles are kind of split into two different variations. There's the normal ones, and then there's the what they call the Cull. And the Cull are supposed to be like 7, 8 feet tall, really, really muscular, um, and yeah, overall probably would resemble more of an ogre slash orc than a regular person.
Yeah. So yeah. Overall, this film was just a big disappointment. And like I said, the what I kept waiting to happen was I kept waiting for John Malkovich to get involved in the story and really make it interesting, you know, and to keep this like really heavy hitting actor just on the sidelines like that and in the background, I think was
And,
just a huge mistake.
well, not just that, they also had him doing the wrong things. For example, the whole time that Eragon is being chased, the intent was never to kill him. It was always to capture him alive, to put him in front of the king so that he could serve under the king. He doesn't ever actually, pretty much throughout the entire book series, ever want to kill Eragon. He always wants Eragon at his side
To
to be the next ruler uh, of Galbatorix's Dragon Riders.
that sounds very Star Wars ish. Like, are we going to find
Kind
out
of. He doesn't just want Eragon, though. I mean, he wants Eragon and the next, pretty much the follow-up, whoever becomes a Dragon Rider after that, which Murtagh, they got that wrong. Murtagh, it was Morzan's son, who was one of the 13 Forsworn Dragon Riders that were under Galbatorix's control many years ago. Brahm ended up killing Morzan. For a time in the second book, Eragon thinks that Morzan is his father because Murtagh and Eragon's mother are the same. So they're half-brothers.
Hmm.
But still, the whole thing was always to get Eragon to join Galbatorix.
Yeah, and the actor that played Durza, Robert Carlyle, I mean, he's not a bad actor, and his performance in this movie was just corny. I don't even know how to characterize it, and I don't know if you noticed, you realize this, but that's the same actor that was Begbie in Trainspotting.
Oh no, I didn't notice.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He is capable of pulling off good roles. He's actually, I don't know if you've seen the show Once Upon a Time right now, but he's a character that plays Rumpelstiltskin.
Okay, yeah.
So this isn't like a nobody actor. He's done some stuff, and he just was. I think this movie was cursed.
I pretty much blame everything on the screenplay writer and the director.
And I mean, the first time I started watching it was that was last Sunday, the night of the show, and I fell asleep. Then I tried to watch it again a couple of times during the week, couldn't get into it, and finally watched it Friday, and just had a hard time, sitting through it. It's a boring movie. I'm starting to repeat myself here, but there's nothing. I have nothing good to say about this film. I mean,
What did you think
Jeremy
of Jeremy
Irons.
Irons' performance?
Jeremy Irons was a good mentor, but they didn't use him in it just.
Well, how so? What do you mean didn't use him?
He was supposed to basically shape Eragon into what he was to become, and I never saw that.
All right.
All he did was like tell stories. They had that like
Well,
one little training montage,
which was supposed to be much longer than it was.
yeah, it was ridiculously short. It was stupid. I mean, I'm not even sure why they included it in the film, and it just.
And
I like Jeremy Irons. I mean, I could watch him in just about anything, and I don't think he did poorly. I just think it was a poor character.
well, poorly written for the movie.
Yes.
I don't remember if they had really mentioned it in the movie, but Brahm being a previous dragon rider, his previous dragon that died was also named Saphira.
Oh, interesting.
Uh, and they also, like I said, the training sessions go a lot longer, and there was never any distrust between Saphira and Brahm, because when Eragon's uncle, Garrow, they don't ever mention his name in the movie, but when his uncle Garrow dies and he goes in Saphira, pretty much kidnaps him so that he doesn't get hurt, and they come back and they find him dead. Eragon ends up passing out because of the blood loss of trying to ride Saphira.
Hmm.
And Brahm meets Saphira and ends up talking with her for a while and telling her things that even she won't tell Eragon until he was ready. So she actually had full trust in Brahm.
So Braun was actually capable of communicating with Aragon because I didn't ever see that in the movie.
That's another thing. Pretty much anyone who has used magic, actually not just that, even more than that, anyone who has trained their mind to either prevent people from entering their mind or just in general use magic are able to talk with Saphira mentally. Although they don't share the link that is a constant between like Eragon and Saphira, they are able to at least communicate.
Hmm. Okay. Um, yeah, I don't know if they ever plan on trying to continue this film saga, but
If they do, I pray to God that they just don't try to continue anything out of this movie. Just do the second book and do it as its own thing. Pretend this movie didn't exist.
and I don't think that'll happen. I think they'll try. If they do that, it would have to be a reboot, and they would have to remake this movie first.
Not necessarily. Look at what they did with the Incredible Hulk.
What do you mean?
There was the movie before that was just called Hulk.
Well, there were several Incredible Hulk films, and they none of them build on any of the other ones. You know, I mean, that was a reboot.
Not really. I mean, Hulk showed how Bruce Banner became the Hulk.
So did the Incredible Hulk.
No, it didn't.
Yes, it did.
No, it didn't.
At the beginning of the movie,
He was already the Hulk.
they go through a montage where they show him. They do the whole homage to David Banner.
That was him flashing back. That wasn't actually showing the study and research and everything. It was, I guess, like the Hulk was more of an origination, and the Incredible Hulk was just a continuation with a flashback.
Mm,
I would be okay if let's say, if they do the second book, which is called Eldest, if they do a flashback of certain things, but I don't think they should. Maybe I don't know if they should just redo this movie. If they redo the movie, they're going to be hard pressed to get people to go watch it again with the disappointment that this movie was.
well, it might be difficult to do, but like I wouldn't call it Aragon for one, because I wouldn't want it associated with this film.
I would probably call it Inheritance, like the book series is supposed to be called.
I thought only one of them was Inheritance.
No, the book it's the entire quadrilogy of books is called the Inheritance Cycle.
That's right. That's right.
The
I did
first
read
book is
that.
Eragon, the second book is Eldest, the third book is Bersinger, and the fourth book is Inheritance.
Okay. Um, well, if they did go on, I mean, is there anything that happened in the movie that didn't happen in the book?
Yeah. They just completely like you know what, you're probably right. They probably would have to redo the movie to actually set things straight. Because yes, Arya did not leave at the end of the book. She did not just start riding off to her own people. That was stupid. She is the one who helps Eragon get to the elves in the second book to continue his training.
Okay. Um, yeah, it sounds to me like they definitely have to redo the whole thing. Who would you like to see in it if they did that?
The only person that I actually wouldn't mind returning is Jeremy Irons to do flashbacks of Brahm, because there are very important things that he showed to Saphira which are not mentioned until the second and third books. One of which I'll because I don't think you're ever going to read them. I'll tell you off air, but I don't want to spoil it for people who may pursue an interest in reading these books.
Yeah, fantasy genre just not really my thing. Even though I read the Lord of the Ring books, and I read that long before the movies came out. But fantasy sagas don't really do it for me. So you're right. I'm probably never going to read these books.
But it's hard to get anyone to necessarily play the role of Eragon, because I wouldn't say hard to get someone, hard for me to name someone, because whoever they pick is going to have to, if they want to do it correctly, is going to have to look 15 or 16 years old.
Well, they can get a young actor, but it's got to be a good actor. You know, I mean, there's plenty of
Right, and
films
and that's the thing. It's like I don't know of any good 16-year-old actors.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you on that.
As for Arya, I'm gonna say like I'd have to look here. There's definitely some actors out there to play Arya. Arya is not young by any means. Arya is like 100.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, she's an elf.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's 100 as an elf, but I think the way they describe her, she looks to be about 24-ish.
Okay. And it seemed to me in the movie that she kind of came across as the love interest for Eragon. Is that how that plays out?
Yes.
Okay.
She does not reciprocate.
So she's a cougar.
Yes, she is.
So, all right. Well, anyway, this is I think we've beaten this one into the ground enough. Your take on it? Hate the movie? Recommend the books?
Yes, definitely recommend the books. If you're one of those people who likes maybe seeing a movie beforehand, watch this and then go read the books. But don't watch it just to go watch a movie because it's terrible.
I wouldn't recommend anyone watch this movie. And this is just coming purely from the movie standpoint. I never had any exposure to the books. The story is flat. It's not engaging. They don't make you care about any of the characters. I mean, even Brom. I liked Jeremy Irons. I liked his delivery. I liked the way he pulled the character off, but the character sucked. I didn't care about him. When he died, I was like, whatever. Oh, maybe that was a little spoilerish. But, it was a poorly made film, and there's no excuse for it. They had the acting talent. They had the budget for it. They just did poorly.
They had a couple of acting talents I don't necessarily know about some of the others.
Well, I mean, if you watch some of the like inside the actor studios, when you hear when the actors perform with these acting giants, they learn from them. They feed off of each other, and I didn't see any of that. I'm not convinced that like John Malkovich was ever on the set with any of the other actors, except for maybe Robert Carlyle.
He should have never. Galbatorix's character should have never been there, but.
This is I guess if we're going to go cliche, 2 thumbs down.
Yes, very much so.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But before we do that, I want to mention, our thoughts are with all the victims of Hurricane Sandy in the Northeast. There's a lot of stuff going on there. While this wasn't the most powerful storm, they certainly weren't prepared for it. And they're having lots of problems because of it. So there is a way that you can donate if you want to help. You can text the number. It's let me pull that up real quick. It's 90999. If you text Red Cross to that, it'll be a $10 donation. It'll get billed directly to your phone, and it'll really go to help the people out there because. Donating food and clothes and stuff like that is all well and good, but it creates a logistical problem because they still got to get that stuff there and store it and distribute it. If you donate money, they can spend it on the stuff that they need locally, and it just makes things a lot easier for them. So that's how I would recommend doing it. Or you can go to your local Red Cross and donate there. There's lots of different ways you can do it. So hopefully you can. Participate in that if you really want to support them. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and have Dante pick the next movie. We got Dante. Should be wearing your dragon shirt. That totally landed on the chair, didn't it? Yes.
Or apparently an eagle shirt because it didn't look anything.
What's that?
I would say, or apparently an eagle shirt because apparently it's modeled after.
Okay, let's see if I can. That's too small. B8. That's what it says.
B8.
B8. Dante forgot the movies, so he's going to come back. That is... It's another one of Dante... Oh. Another one of Dante's movies.
What was that?
It's a movie I've been really, really, really trying hard to avoid because I don't want to see it because it's another assault on my childhood. It
Oh no.
is the most recent incarnation of. Can you read that?
No.
The Karate Kid.
Oh, okay. No, actually, I will be happy to discuss that. Wait, you haven't seen the movie yet?
No,
Oh my God.
because it's not the Karate Kid. The Karate Kid was fine with Mr. Miyagi and Ralph Macchio, and that is what I loved. And
Go watch it.
I wonder if I can have a guest host next week. So
I very much enjoyed the movie.
Dante better have a lot to say. That's all I'm saying. On that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up on behalf of Brandon and Dante, who's movie raping me into seeing this. That's a wrap. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Or if you want to follow along with our antics when we're not in front of the camera, you can check us out on our social media pages on Facebook, Google+, or Twitter by searching for the M Cluster. Or you can leave comments in the field below. Or you can send us an email or give us a call. Heck, you can even write us a letter. Or you could buy us dinner. Or you could buy us a car. That would be awesome. Or you could send us on vacation. Or get us an Emmy. Ooh, a Tony. If you could get us a Tony, that would